I'm joined now by Reince Priebus. He's chairman of the Republican National Committee. Mr. Chairman, welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
Good morning, Chuck.
You know, a month ago, you said, when asked about the idea of an open convention, you said this: it's very early to have this conversation. I think that in a month, if we're sitting in a situation where candidates are tied, then I think in a month you start looking at those possibilities. But right now, we've got a long way to go. Well, that was a month ago. Here we are. Is it fair to start looking at these possibilities of an open and contested convention?
Well, I'm a pretty good prognosticator, Chuck. Yeah, I think that it's quite possible. Certainly, Wisconsin's going to be important in that conversation, and still, after Wisconsin, either way, we're going to have two candidates that could get to the 1237, the majority of delegates before we get to Cleveland. And our role at the RNC is going to be a fair arbitrator and be a party that respects the voice and the vote of the voters and the delegates.
Well, it's interesting you say the voters and the delegates. Who does choose the nominee here? Is it Republican primary voters? Is it or is it the delegates?
If there's one interviewer that probably knows the rules better than anyone, it's you, Chuck. But I'll answer the question.
Well, you know
anyway.
what I mean. But the principle of it. Are we?
Yeah.
Principally,
no, I understand.
Is it the party's voters that are picking this nominee, or the party's delegates, which is a different set of people?
The nomination is won on the floor in Cleveland by the majority of delegates that get empowered by the vote of the people. So the voters in these states, their votes end up causing delegates to be bound to candidates and those delegates will have to vote for those candidates on the floor. There's no way around it. If a delegate is bound to a candidate, right, even if that delegate decides later, I don't care, I'm not voting for that person, the secretary at the convention will read the roll as if that delegate voted for the person that they're bound to, period.
You know, one of the things that I think has been a misconception is that somehow the rules of 2012 will apply to the 2016 election. And the reason this comes up is because there was a rule in 2012 that said if you didn't win a majority of delegates in 8 states, you couldn't get your name nomination. What is the likelihood that that rule stays for 2016? Or are all the rules for how this election conducted going to get rewritten come July?
Well, I'm of course guessing here. I don't have any power to change any rules, Chuck, but I think it's probably unlikely that you see major changes. But again, as you say, the 2012 rules were written by the 2012 delegates who were bound to Mitt Romney. And so Mitt Romney's rules of 2012 will not be the rules that apply to the 2016 convention, which will be made largely of Trump and Cruz delegates. And why would people want the Romney delegates' rules to apply to Cruz and Trump and Kasich? Right. It doesn't make any sense. So the Rules Committee will come together. Those delegates will get on these committees, they'll review the rules, and the 2016 rules will apply to the 2016 convention.
Is it fair, you know, the Trump campaign is not happy with what happened in Tennessee this weekend. It's a state primary he won. He still has the same amount of delegates that he won, 33, but he didn't get to choose the individuals. The state party did. And in fact, his senior advisor in his campaign told this to us. He said, I've been told 2 of the delegates are truly Trump delegates. 5 are pretend delegates, meaning these are people that will be bound for 2 ballots but don't plan on supporting them. Is that fair? Is that fair?
Well, first of all, the delegates, there's two parts of the process. One is you got to get the delegate allocation, meaning when you win the state, you're allocated a certain amount of delegates. Yeah. Donald Trump has 33 delegates in Tennessee, and they're bound to Donald Trump, not just for 1 vote,
right,
but in Tennessee, they're actually bound for 2 votes,
right,
and nothing can change that. Now, the selection of delegates, who's in those seats, is something that happens at the state party level, and these campaigns have to have serious operations in the states, and they have to ensure that those people do their best job in getting their own, the people they want to be in those seats. So it doesn't just happen automatically. It has to be done through work and preparation.
Are you confident Donald Trump can win a general election?
Sure, I think all of our candidates can win a general election, especially when you look at Hillary Clinton.
Is he your best candidate?
Who quite possibly could be. She could be indicted, and who knows? They're the ones that could have an open convention, and Joe Biden could be the nominee of the Democrat Party.
But is Donald Trump your strongest candidate?
I don't know. Listen, I don't really have to. I don't worry about who is the strongest candidate. Obviously, we have our own conversations here, but the fact is that we're here prepared to support whoever the eventual nominee is, with the biggest, best Republican National Committee that we've ever put together, Chuck.
And one last question. Considering we're going to have an open convention, you have 3 candidates fighting for delegates and worried about who those people are, should the RNC be in charge of the VP running mate vetting process, considering that everything is going to get scrambling? Have you offered to provide those services to the candidates?
You know, not particularly. I mean, we certainly are equipped with our research team to do it, but that's another interesting question because the delegates choose the vice president as well. And that's a subject no one's really talking about, is that's another vote on the floor that the delegates choose. And so while I'm sure obviously the choice of whoever the nominee is going to be important, it's still up for a vote of the delegates.
Well, all that means is more reasons to watch what happens in Cleveland. Reince Priebus, chairman of the RNC, thanks for coming on the show, sir.
Thanks.